Penalties can be absolutely brutal if an RMD isn't taken in time. Save your client's nest egg by implementing best practices from today's session. So welcome everybody, my name is Nora and I'm going to be your trainer today to talk about these RMDs, best practices. And what's great with Redtail and our newest version of the CRM called Tailwag is that we have built-in reports for this RMD information. So if I click on reports over here on the left-hand side, I'll be able to access two different RMD reports. The first one is a straight line right across. It's underneath the contact reports. And this one is called Contacts by RMD Report. And on the filters on the right, you're going to have the default filter of 70.5 and up, but you can adjust this to 65 and up and 59.5 and up. So that way, maybe you want to go ahead and get a jump start on things. You want to use this as a prospecting tool. Maybe you want to see if people want to take distributions early. Whatever it may be for sort of that prospecting process, I would suggest to check out this report here. And you'd be able to, like I said, sort it by age. So if I want to isolate this list specifically by my contacts that are 59.5 and up, I could go ahead and select that increment of age and apply that filter. Now, as a best practice, I would go ahead and click on the column here for age. So it'll go ahead and move the age, the youngest people to the top, and you can kind of work your way down or whatever. And you also have on the right-hand side here, the ability to isolate this list by tax qualified accounts, because maybe it's not helpful to know those contacts that have accounts that aren't tax qualified. So you could go ahead and check off that box, apply that filter, and it'll go ahead and isolate this list to those contacts that are having those tax qualified accounts. And the second report that comes with the database is going to be underneath the account reports. And this one is my favorite one out of these two reports. And it's the one that I'm going to suggest for you to work out of for best practices. Because those other accounts or those other contacts in the contact report, you aren't going to be able to isolate that list by a specific account type. So that's why I personally like this list. I think it's more defined, and I'm going to suggest for today when we do these best practices for RMDs that you always pull up this accounts by RMD report and not the contacts by RMD one. So use that one more for prospect purposes. So you have these two reports that come with the database. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about is the importance of clean data. If you are into best practices at all, you know that we at Redtail always preach the importance of clean data inside of your system. Like if I didn't have those contacts represented with the tax qualified check, then those contacts aren't going to show up in that report. So the two items that you need to make sure are set up in a clean and functional way inside of your database to make sure that you're set up for today are going to be the RMD taken user defined field, and those tax qualified accounts need to be marked in the CRM. And what I exactly mean by that is, if we go over here back to that report for the RMD accounts, then I can go ahead and see here that I have, Barry Allen listed here under this account. are under this report. But as soon as I check off tax qualified and I apply this filter, Barry is taken off of this report. But if I know for sure Barry has an account that is tax qualified, then I need to make sure that I go back to this report and click on that account, so that way I can make sure that he has that appropriate check to make sure that he shows up in the report. And to do that, I'm going to go to accounts here on the left hand side, and I'm going to click on this action icon next to that 123 account that I want to make sure is represented as tax qualified, because I know for a fact it is. Then I'll go ahead and select on edit account. And I'm going to check off the box here that says tax qualified. So this is the first thing I'm talking about with clean data. If you do not have this box checked off, it's not going to show up in that report. Now, as a bonus, you do have the ability to add more information, what type of tax qualified type this is, and you can go ahead and choose that here. But as soon as I go ahead and update that, and I make sure that that's represented with that clean data, then when I go back to that accounts by RMD report and I isolate this list again, I'm going to see Barry included in this list. Now, the second thing that you want to make sure is implemented for clean data is the user-defined field for tax or for RMD taken. So to add in this user-defined field, you always want to click on your name in the top right-hand corner and click on Manage Your Account. And if we go down here to the bottom, this area is only for admins only. But if we click on Manage Database Lists, on the right-hand side, you're going to have an area for your user-defined fields. And I would go ahead and just represent this on the contact level. If you want to represent it definedly on each account level, you do have the ability to add it on the account level as well. But I'm just assuming that even if there are two tax qualified accounts, you're just going to total those and represent one total that your contacts need to distribute. So if I go down here to the user-defined fields, I just want to show you how we have RMD taken user-defined fields represented for each year. So as a best practice, I'm recommending that as soon as it's a new year, you add in a new user-defined field that says RMD taken along with the year. And go ahead and set this user-defined field to yes or no, so that way we can definely represent, did they take their distribution, yes or no, and we can follow up on this at the end of the year. So I'm going to go ahead and add in this new user-defined field. And now that I checked those two places for clean data, I made sure I had that RMD taken in there, and I made sure that I had that tax qualified represented. Now I can go ahead and run my reports and do this action. So if I go to reports on the left-hand side, I'm going to go ahead and suggest that you do this on the first of every year or whatever your process is. Go ahead and click on the account reports and select on accounts by RMD. And then, like I said, represent this to isolate it to those contacts. You want to make sure take their distribution this calendar year. You can go ahead and isolate this list. And the next step is to use this button here in the top right-hand corner that says Send to Search. As soon as you click Send to Search, it's going to send those contacts that are in that list to the search page so I can do something with them. And you'll notice that there's only 3 represented here, but there were 4 in that report. And that's because there were 2 accounts for Barry, and he's only one person. So when I sent that list to the search page, there's only 3 names represented here. And now if I want to add in that user-defined field, I just need to check off the top checkbox to make sure all of them are selected, and then go over here to the contact options in the top right-hand corner, go down to bulk actions, and then select on the user-defined field add. So if I go down here to user-defined field, I'll have the ability to choose that one that I want to add in bulk. So I'll go ahead and find the R&D taken for this year, and I'm going to select the value that I want everyone to be set to. Now this is a bulk action, so I need to go ahead and know that everyone didn't take their distribution first. And as soon as I know that, I'm going to set everyone to no. As a best practice, I suggest to overwrite existing ones so that way you don't have those duplicate fields. So if I overwrite the existing and assign these user-defined fields, it'll take all of these contacts that I selected and assign that user-defined field in bulk to those records. So now that you have that RMD account report ran, you assign those RMD taken user-defined fields in bulk. The next thing that I want you to do for a best practice is add in activities to remind yourself to run these 2 reports. One report is the annual RMD report, to do this again in 2017, do it again in 2018, and so on and so on. And the second one would be an annual activity to run your RMD taken report to make sure everyone did take their distribution. And what I mean by that is if I go over to reports and I run my UDF report to check out those contacts that have that contact user-defined field, then I can go ahead and check out this list to isolate it by the 2016 taken. And I can set this equal to no. And that's the activity that I'm going to go ahead and assign to myself to remind myself every year at the end of the year, I should run this report and make sure everyone has changed this from yes to no. Or from no to yes. I'm so sorry about that. From no to yes. And we have until April to make sure that these contacts do take their distribution. So we want to make sure that at least by 12/31, I run this report and make sure I contact every single person and make sure they don't hit that penalty in April. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click on the quick add icon in the top right hand corner, and I'm going to go ahead and add in an activity to go ahead and schedule that to-do item that I need to keep doing every year. And for the subject, let's go ahead and name this RMD taken report. And we can go ahead and add in a description as well. All right, so I went ahead and typed in a brief description there, and I'm going to go ahead and put the due date for this report on December 31st. And since that is, a holiday and a weekend, I'll go ahead and move that over to Thursday. And I'm going to leave this as an all-day activity because I don't need to run this report at 9 a.m. or 3 p.m. I just need to make sure I run this report at some point in the day before I leave. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to all day so I can get to it at some point in the day. And if I go down here to repeats, I'm going to suggest that you at least set this to repeat yearly, every 1 year. And we can say we want to keep this in December and let's say that we want to keep this repeating on the last Thursday of the month. Then I can go ahead and set this frequency. So I'm having it repeat yearly, repeating once a year in December at the end of the year on the last Thursday. And I'm going to go ahead and suggest that you add in a repeat ends date. So that way, when you do push over and sync calendars and whatnot, you're not going to have to push over, 50 years of calendar. It's going to push over only a set increment, and then you can reevaluate whether or not it's necessary to rerun this every year. So we'll go ahead and save this. I'm going to go up here to the top and make sure it is assigned to me. If I want to add in someone else, I can do that here, but I'm going to just add it to my own name and save this activity. So now every year I'm going to be reminded to run this report at the end of the year and make sure that I go to Candy and I reach out to her, make sure she takes her distribution, and as soon as she does take that, I'll go ahead and go over to her user-defined field and change that user-defined field from no to yes. Update that field, and now she'll be off of that list and I can really focus on those other three. And the second activity I'm going to suggest to go ahead and put in as a repeating activity is going to be the actual RMD account report. So you can add in that RMD taken user defined field each year. So I'll go ahead and say RMD report, account report to be specific. And I'm going to go ahead and put in the details here. So run and what I like is you could actually format this text. So let's go ahead and make this into a list. And it might be the first step here we can put is to add in the user defined field. All right, so I went ahead and took a moment here to type this in. It did take a moment, but this is great because let's say I actually delegate this task to another teammate at some point in time. I don't have to spend those moments training them on how to complete this task. I could send them to this description area and they'll know exactly my expectation on how to complete this item. And we're going to make this repeat again. So we'll do the same exact repeat yearly. So we'll have it repeat once a year. But this time, instead of doing the repetition to happen at the end of the year, I'm going to suggest to have this happen at the beginning of the year. So that way, maybe somebody calls you in March and wants to take their distribution in March. Then you could go ahead and have that RMD field attached already and just move their name from no to yes. And let's have this be, the first Wednesday of the year. And we'll have an end in that 2020. All right, perfect. So we did a lot today. We went ahead and we made sure that we had clean data in our system. We made sure that we had accounts represented that had the tax qualified. And then we also made sure that we added in a user-defined field each year that says RMD taken plus the year. Once we had that good data inside of our system, we went ahead and ran the account reports to go ahead and do the accounts by RMD report and isolate this list by 70.5 and tax qualified accounts and get that good clean data so I can add in that user defined field. And then as clients take their distribution, I'll just move that user defined field from no to yes. And then we also added 2 activities to make sure that we implement this best practice each and every year. we went ahead and added one to run the account RMD report and add the user-defined field to that, and then also one at the end of the year to check on that user-defined field report and make sure that everyone did take their distribution. So a lot there, but those are the best practices that I recommend so that you make sure that your clients are happy around tax season. So I want to go ahead and let you know that if you have any other questions, our team is always happy to be your resource. You could always call us at 1-800-206-5030, and that's option 3 for support. Otherwise, thank you so much for your time and have a great rest of the day. Thank you.